If you think the Democrats aren't crazy, just look at New York. Fat Albert Bragg is putting the President of the United States, the 45th straight talk. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Yes, and welcome, my friends, once again to the Bunker Bob Show. This is it is great to be back with you. I am, as many of you know, I made a pledge a long time ago that I would never run for public office again because doing so is just an act of futility in many ways, and yet. What has happened in my little city of McClendon-Chisholm, which is irrelevant to most of my listeners, is just too much to take. And so, yeah, I put my name on the ballot in my little city, and am running for city council to get back on where I was mayor at one time, and to get rid of a California carpetbagging rhino who has basically who is a do nothing kind of quote unquote Republican, and he's everything that is soulless about the Republican Party establishment, and that happens right here in my little city. I'm not going to go into that because that's not what this show is about, but I will be doing some special shows just for the people of McClendon-Chisholm, so you know what's going on and why exactly it is that I'm running. But today I want to focus here in Texas. So we'll talk and catch up with what's happening in Austin. And I think there's a lot of interesting things taking place, and it's really quite fascinating. I'll just put it that way. And I'm going to give you some food for thought about things that you may not have thought about, especially as it relates to some of the legislation that is going through the Texas House and Senate. But before I do that, I want to just briefly talk about something that has been all over the news the last couple of days. And that, of course, is the indictment of the 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And to be clear, I am a 2020 Trump delegate, national delegate, elected by my congressional district to represent our congressional district in voting for Donald Trump. And so I have never said that I am objective in any of this. I am absolutely, wholeheartedly on board with the Republican Party, with Donald J. Trump, and continue to be a supporter of Donald J. Trump. And I want to explain something that just boggles the mind. Do you ever feel like you're in the Twilight Zone? Remember the show, The Twilight Zone, where it just seems like everyone else, they have this strange sense of normal that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense to anyone. And you're kind of looking around and saying, what is the matter with these people? Why are people acting the way they are? It makes no sense. And of course it makes no sense what's happening in the nation right now. And it's shocking to me, frankly. It really is shocking to me what happens in our nation, because you almost think that you're not in the United States of America after what Fat Albert Bragg, the district attorney, what he's doing. But here's the kicker, and it boggles the mind why the case didn't receive summary judgment just the moment that the prosecution put down his case, his indictment, when the grand jury put forth their indictment against President Trump. Now, it should be understood, and I'm not an attorney, so I'm learning a lot about law, especially lately, because I'm working and actually am about to file a federal lawsuit against the city of McClendon-Chisholm for violations, for the mayor and members of city council violating the Constitution. So that's right here in my own city of McClendon-Chisholm, and I'm learning about who can and who can't enforce things. And it's eye-opening that the government, here's the thing that bothers me, is that the government can basically do whatever it wants. And one level of government can basically, like a little city, a municipality, or a municipality like New York, they can infringe upon the constitutional rights of citizens, and that's not a criminal act. But if you exercise your right, let's just say a free speech, in a government environment, that government can put you in jail and charge you with a crime, even if that violates your constitutional rights. And there is no criminal act, from what I'm understanding, there's nothing criminal about that. When people in government actually go out and take away your rights. And Donald Trump is facing 34 counts of what? Fat Albert basically put together 34 counts for violating, for basically trying to influence the 2016 election by trying to give hush money to Stormy Daniels in 2017. Now think about that. Now I'm an Aggie, and the math doesn't even add up for me as an Aggie. Wait a minute. The charges are for actions that took place in 2017 that were supposed to influence the 2016 election. Now, if that's where I go, it's almost as though we're in the twilight zone, isn't it? That it seems like, and for a judge to sit there and listen to this and never raise one question like, wait a minute, that don't make no sense. That's what you would think that the judge would do. Now there's something, a term that Judge Jeanine Pirro and others have used to explain that within 30 days, the prosecution has to put basically a list of charges that basically explain what's going on. And it's interesting that the crime that he is accused of violating, the crime are all misdemeanors, but all those misdemeanors combined were intended to basically break another law. But that other law has never been revealed. And Fat Albert, when asked about that in the press conference, said, we don't have to reveal that. We're not required to reveal that at this time. And you think to yourself, this is the president of the United States. If you're going to charge the president of the United States, you darn well better have a rock solid case. But of course, that's not how Democrats think. And that's really what is so interesting about this whole thing is, and as a Trump delegate, I talk to people all the time, and I have been surprised that so many people, they want DeSantis. Well, we're tired of Trump. We don't like how he talks. I keep looking at everyone saying, wait a minute. I mean, here is the one guy in history, one president in our nation's history who actually went into the Oval Office and did everything he said he was going to do. And I used to be I used to call myself a Reagan Republican. I no longer do. I call myself a Trump Republican because Trump did everything he said he was going to do. And the problem is people are so focused on how people say things. We have become a snowflake society, even within the Republican Party. And if you're bothered by Donald Trump's tweets, it's asinine to me. And I get it. I get it. You want someone that you like. And that's human nature. I get it. And that's why that's why I said I would never run for public office again, because I frankly hate doing two things: kissing babies and ass, because I don't want to do either. And that's why I'm not a good politician, because I tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And so the people of McLennan-Chisholm, my own city, I guess they're going to have to decide, do they want someone who is basically going to make them feel good about themselves and then raise their tax rate and act fiscally irresponsible and continue to do backroom deals with developers in violation of Texas law? Or do they want someone who's going to stand up and say to those people who come before the city council to screw the people of McLennan-Chisholm, hey, if you're here to screw the people of McLennan-Chisholm, you can just walk out the door? That's exactly what I do and what I will say. And that's what Donald Trump says. If you're here to do anything that's going to harm the United States of America, we are here. He goes, there's the door, because I'm here to make America great again. And that's what Donald J. Trump did. These trumped up charges, literally, these trumped up charges are so outrageous. It defies logic. And I have heard from many Democrat attorneys who scratch their head and say, there's no there. One thing that one commentator said that I thought was interesting is that if the old rule is, if you're going to kill the king, you better do it in one shot. You better have good aim, and this aim is awful. So I am interested to see how this Democrat judge decides to move on in 30 days. If he is, it's just mind-boggling to imagine that he could continue this case and say that there is standing in any way. But that is that's the twilight zone in which we all live right now. So with that, I do want to say that as I'm broadcasting, I broadcast this live, and we just came out of March Madness. Right now, greatest event in I think in sports history is happening right now. That's the Masters, and I guess I would say that I am a golf lover, a golf enthusiast. I don't play very well, and I don't play that often, if at all. So it's not that I love to play the game, it's that I love to watch. That's going on right now. John Rahm is and Hovland and Bruce Koepka are all tied at 7 under. All right. So I'm sure you were interested in that. But I did want to talk about March Madness, because we just finished March Madness. It's my favorite. I will say it is my favorite time of year. March Madness, there's something about it. I absolutely love the fact that that is so thrilling. And this was really a thrilling year to see some of these teams come out of nowhere. Well, what is interesting about all of the March Madness that we just came through is what happened in all of this is Bud Light got themselves a new spokesperson. And that, of course, is the guy, a man, Dylan Mulvaney, who is transitioning, and he has become famous on YouTube because every day of his transition, he has created a literal caricature of women. It is incredibly demeaning. It is incredibly insulting to women, but it has become so outrageous that he was invited to the White House and sat down with President Biden. Again, the twilight zone continues to happen, and this is basically what the new face of Budweiser, of Bud Light, looks like. Watch this.
Hi. Impressive carrying skills, right? I got some Bud Lights for us. So, I kept hearing about this thing called March Madness, and I thought we were all just having a hectic month, but it turns out it has something to do with sports. And I'm not sure exactly which sport, but either way, it's a cause to celebrate. This month, I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on it. Check out my Instagram story to see how you can enjoy March Madness with Bud Light and maybe win some money too. Love ya! Cheers! Go team! Whatever team you love, I love too. Okay.
Okay, so that is Dylan Mulvaney. That is, and I'm sorry for I'm just getting back in the swing of things with some of the things going on, and so my some of the equipment is not working exactly as it's supposed to work. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But bottom line, that's what Bud Light has as their new spokesperson. But I think there is an alternative spokesperson, and that's alternative spokesperson is Kid Rock. Here's what he has to say.
Grandpa is feeling a little frisky today. Let me say something to all of you and be as clear and concise as possible. Fuck Bud Light. Fuck Anheuser-Busch.
Well, I guess Kid Rock doesn't have a problem with expressing himself, and nor do I, folks. And you know, it's funny because I have been ridiculed, castigated, demonized by some of my friends who literally give me such a hard time because I am a Miller Lite drinker. That's my beer of choice, because they call it, they like all of these fancy things. They like the Shiner box. They like the everything that is not Miller Lite. They call me the trailer trash of beer drinkers. And you know, I guess, okay, I actually don't drink. I don't drink that often, if at all, really. And so, but when I do drink a beer, that's all I want. I just want a simple Miller Lite. Thank goodness I'm on the right side of that. But it's kind of like what's happening in New York. What the left is trying to do with Trump is actually galvanizing Republicans together to basically support the guy. It's having the exact opposite effect. And Bud Light, it's doing the same thing. To imagine that Bud Light and Miller Lite and Coors Light, I mean, these are the kind of beers that you see at a NASCAR race, and in a car race. And by the way, I went to I took my daughter our first NASCAR race this year. We had one of the best times of our life. And in fact, there's a picture behind me that my daughter put together for us. It's us with our headphones on, and my wife didn't want to go. She's not into that kind of thing. But my daughter wanted to go to a NASCAR race, and so we went. And I'll tell you what, Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, those are the beers that you primarily see at these events. That's the market. And they're basically walking away from the very market that made them who they are. Now, Bud Light is not. Anheuser-Busch is no longer an American company, of course. In fact, ironically, Miller Lite is an American company. Coors is no longer an American company. So it's not surprising, I guess, for some to think about the fact that why would they do that? Why would they bring on a spokesperson like this Mulvaney guy? And calling Dylan Mulvaney a woman is the same ridiculous thing as calling the guy who shot up the Christian school in Nashville a woman. I mean, you took one look at the video, and it was impossible to go, oh yeah, that's a woman walking. It was clearly a guy, a man, someone with a penis. I'm old fashioned, you know. I call women. I think women are those who have a uterus. I'm old fashioned that way, but the press continues to talk about that evil guy as a woman. It was a woman who shot up the school. No, it was not a woman that shot up the school. It was a man. He had a penis, folks. And by the way, apparently that's more hateful. What I just said is more hateful than what he did to those 3 children and 3 adults. The White House refuses to call it a hate crime because, or even talk about the fact that these are Christians that they were killing. But that's where we are as a society. We're going to sacrifice Christians. That's where we go. It's the twilight zone, folks. That's where we live. But let not your heart be troubled, because as those of you who, like me, are followers of Christ, we know how it ends. We know the ending. And for those in Christ, this life here on earth is as bad as it will ever get. And those who don't know Christ, this life is as good as it will ever get. So that's why we pray for those who don't know the saving grace of Jesus Christ. And that's why we are appalled when we see something so outrageous as Dylan Mulvaney trying to be a woman, trying to act like a girl. And it's why we're outraged when we see men competing with women as a woman. It makes no sense to us. Because, you know, those of us who are conservatives, we have something called common sense. There is no common sense in the world anymore, is there? Just like there's no justice in the world, is there? So that's what's going on in the world today. And on another note, this just happened. Probably looks like it happened just a little while ago, probably 30 minutes ago. Tennessee's GOP-dominated House expelled the first of 3 Democrat members who were at risk of being thrown out of the legislature for their role in a demonstration calling for gun control after the Nashville school shooting. Now, what happened in Nashville, if you watch the world news, I'm sure if you watch the mainstream press, what you're going to see is they're going to focus on the 2 black guys, and they're going to call this a racist, the white racist Republicans who are trying to quash the voice of blacks. And they're going to ignore the fact that the white woman that was part of this instigation, where they basically shut down the House and got on megaphones and would not allow the House to move forward. They basically made a mockery of the legislature. And interestingly, Tennessee has a legislature that actually stand what is right, what is honorable, what is just. And that is a heartening thing. So when they expel these legislators, they're literally out of office. Now they can run again. They can run to take their office back. And the way they're put in office when there's a vacated seat, typically in the state of Tennessee, a governmental body of some kind, and I'm not sure how it works there. Here in Texas, we have executive committee, Republican Party. All precinct chairs are considered the Republican Party executive committee for whatever area that you're in. If it's a congressional district, then all of the precinct chairs for that congressional district will meet. They will vote to replace that individual. Tennessee may be a little bit different, but it's somewhat the same. And it is very possible that the 3 that were expelled will be back in office in just a matter of days, even weeks. So don't expect them to be gone for good, but it does demonstrate that that Tennessee lawmakers are serious about holding decorum and about ensuring that legislation moves forward. By the way, I do want to mention something that is, and like I said, I'm a golf enthusiast, and we have and I think his name is Bennett, a senior Aggie student, who is an amateur, and he is 4 under right now. He's tied with Schauffele, Xander Schauffele, and I think a couple of others, but that's exciting. Typically, it's that other school in Austin whose name shall not be mentioned in the bunker. Anyway, I move on. I digress. Let's move on to what's going on in our state House and Senate. And this week, 2 bills that would ban the use of treatments for the purpose of child gender modifications progressed through both House and Cameron Abrams of the Texan. And it was Senator Donna Campbell, who, by the way, a Republican of New Braunfels, who's a physician, who introduced Senate Bill SB 14, fielding questions and basically creating a bit of a turmoil because of what she wants to do in this amendment. And the amendment would allow a physician administering non-surgical gender transitioning or gender reassignment procedure or treatment to continue the course of treatments if the process began 90 days before the bill goes into effect, grandfathering in some children who are currently undergoing treatments. Now, excuse me. Now, during the Senate floor hearing, Campbell had an opportunity to talk on the reasons for proposing a grandfather clause, engaging in a back and forth with Senator Jose Mendez, Democrat of San Antonio, on its purpose. Quote, "This is not science-based practice. There is no scientific data that shows giving these puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones improves anything. There's just no science for it," Campbell said. "So how do we know what to do about going back and stopping them?" Menendez asked about other medical treatments such as steroids and requiring a weaning off period. And Campbell basically said that there are many drugs you can stop without having to wean off. But the issue for Representative Tom Oliver's son, by the way, I'm trying to, Oliver's son is in the House, and he's a Republican in Cyprus who is also a physician. And he filed companion legislation in the House, clarified and basically talked about the grandfathering in a treatment procedure as pejorative to describe the amendment. He writes, "As 2 physician lawmakers, Senator Campbell and I have always endeavored to follow the science on this complex issue," he states. Now, here's the problem. Right there, he loses everyone, because whenever anyone now says we follow the science, we immediately think of Fauci, and we immediately say, that's BS. You're not following the science. And in fact, he may be following the science, but words have meanings, and words like these basically have baggage. So it was probably the wrong words to use in social media. Now, he does say that we could find no studies providing guidance on the effects of rapidly withdrawing these medications from a patient, but he writes that we felt the correct course of action was to allow treatment to continue in these limited cases, with the understanding that it could not progress to additional escalating treatment. Now, Chairman Rinaldi, who, by the way, is a great American, our state party chair, he basically sees it differently, and understandably says that it would allow chemical castration and surgical mutilation of any child to continue. Now, these procedures, as he says, are monstrous, and they are. And this is one of the legislative priorities that the Republican Party, the delegates of the Republican Party last June, all gathered, and we basically voted on the top 8 legislative priorities that we're going to focus on. Of course, one of them was dead on arrival. It was I think our second legislative priority, which was to ban dips. Of course, Dade Phelan and along with all the other Republicans just completely ignored that. And so they don't care what the rank and file Republicans want to do. It is interesting. And well, I'm not going to go back into it because we saw what happened in the U.S. House where not one Republican broke rank with Democrats to become House Speaker, which they could have done. And that's exactly what happens here in Texas. Dade Phelan basically crosses the aisle. He goes over to the Democrats and said, hey, if I can get all your votes, I'll put several of you on as committee chairs. That's the deal. He's making the deal with the devil, and he's saying it's okay. Why? Because he's focused on himself, not the people of Texas. I digress. I'm going to go back to this issue of gender modification. Now, the inter-party opposition continued as the Texas GOP social media account also issued its opinion on Campbell's amendment. It says, we have been told time and time again hormone treatments are reversible and not permanent, yet when faced with the reality they could be banned, leftists admit, well, we already knew the cause lasting harm. They cause lasting harm. This bill no longer protects all Texas children. The debate surrounding the effectiveness and procedural process of administering gender modification medications for children is a continued point of contention. Studies have found that hormone treatments on children with gender dysphoria produce evidence that is, quote, not reliable, and results can be due to confounding bias or chance. There are also findings that offer limited evidence for the effectiveness and safety of gender-affirming hormones. The conversion will continue as Campbell's bill, or the conversation, I should say, not the conversion, as Campbell's bill is set to have a third hearing on the Senate floor, and Oliverson's, man, that's hard name, companion bill in the House was left pending in committee. So I guess we will see what happens there. Now, before I go and focus on budget night, which happens today and tonight, it's going on as we speak, I wanted to focus on one other thing that former governor of Texas, Rick Perry, who is a fellow Aggie, is basically a lobbyist for the gambling lobby, trying to bring gambling into Texas. Now, the Texas, excuse me, House State Affairs Committee approved 3 pieces of legislation designed to authorize a limited number of casinos in the Lone Star State, set up a legal sports betting market, and place both issues on the general election ballot this November. Now, the committee approved House Joint Resolution by Representative Charlie Guerin, our favorite rhino, who he's a useless pustule in the House of Representatives, but he's a useful idiot for those like Dade Phelan, and HJR 102 by Jeff Leach of Plano. Politics certainly makes strange bedfellows. The committee also approved the enabling bill, House Bill 1942, for Leach's proposed constitutional amendment. The enabling bill for casinos by Representative John Kemple of Seguin, the Republicans from Seguin, is still pending in committee per online legislative records. Last month, the committee heard testimony from proponents of the measure, notably casino operator Las Vegas Sands Corp. Interest in the gambling industry. They don't mention Rick Perry, but that was one of them. Opponents included representatives from socially conservative groups, such as Texas Values and the political arms of the Southern Baptist Association. The only 3 members to vote against the casino bills were Representative Shelby Slauson, Republican of Stephenville, John Smithy, a Republican of Amarillo, and Will Metcalf, a Republican of Conroe. All right, Brian. I'll be giving you a call. What's going on here? Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick indicated in radio interviews that this bill has absolutely no chance in the Senate. This is going to die a quick death in the Senate. Now, here's the thing about the casino. And I realize that there are people out there who watch this who are kind of more libertarian in mindset and see no problem with gambling in Texas. Here is the fundamental problem with what is being proposed with gambling, and it's probably not what you're thinking. It's not about the moral issues, although that is where I'm going to come back to, because where I'm going to end on. It's going to land on the moral issue. The issue is a free market, because what's being proposed in this bill is not a free market solution. It is proposing that you basically grant 6 or 8 licenses to the 6 or 8 casinos that we choose. How is that not government picking winners and losers? It's exactly what that is. The Sands Corporation. There is no free market in this. And that's where my rub comes against it. And it kind of begs the question, so why are they limiting the license? What is it about gambling that makes it impossible to just to just pass it and allow gambling a free-for-all in Texas? Think about that. Why can't they do that? It's very simple, folks, because gambling is not a virtuous kind of business. In fact, gambling brings with it a whole host of problems, primarily crime-ridden problems, where law enforcement must be beefed up to the nth degree. And the moral turpitude, the moral issues that are inflicted on society through gambling organizations, really begs the question as to why Texas would want to run into this kind of business in the first place. Now, the quick answer, when you go and look at the testimony of those who are in favor of it, is very similar. It's exactly the same thing that you hear when what's going on here in the little city of McLennan Chisholm. The developers, they come in and they tell you, and literally there's a developer of Trilogy Development who basically came to the city council and said, this is worth $1 billion to the city. $1 billion. Had their eyes open and their mouths wide. Oh, money. The problem is, what is the goal? What is the goal of the state of Texas? We want better education, right? That's what the Texas Lottery, that's why we passed the Texas Lottery, remember? Texas Lottery is going to save our educational system. Texas will be the leader in education. Heck, why would we want to ignore that? Why wouldn't we want to pass the Texas Lottery? How we doing, educators? Why is it that the teachers union in Texas, why do they protest on the grounds of the state capital of Texas for more money, when the lottery solved all of that problem? Well, the answer is because the lottery didn't solve the problem, number one. And number two, there will never be enough money for educators, ever. When you ask any education lobby, any teacher lobby, any of these public school lobbies, you ask them, what is the number that you want? They say, we can't tell you it's more. It's just more. It is a black hole. That's why I found it. If you remember, this last election cycle where Brian Slayton had an opponent for state house, and his opponent basically he was a pastor of a church. Excuse me. I've got allergies. I do apologize. And I don't have a cough button, so I apologize for that. But this guy, we were talking about education, and he said something. He goes, well, that's why private school teachers are paid so much more. If we could pay our teachers more, we would get as good an education in our public schools as we get in private schools. And that's where I just kind of fell out of my seat. I said, do you have any idea what you're talking about? If private school teachers are paid significantly less than public school teachers. He said, no, that's not true. I said, yeah, you need to look at the empirical, irrefutable, incontrovertible evidence of fact. They don't want to do that. The left doesn't want to do that. We just think the panacea for everything is more money. Folks, if the answer was more money, our children would be the smartest on the planet. Kids in New York and Washington, D.C., they would be our Rhodes Scholars all over America, and not at the very last, at the very end of the educational chart. Money is not the key. We keep saying we need more money, and that's what this gambling thing does. That's what all these gambling, because it'll help our roads. It'll help us build roads. You know what else helps us build roads that was always promised to us? And I'm from Houston, and I'll never forget, when I was growing up, they were talking about building the toll road around Houston. And here was the plan. And on the face, it sounded, oh, that makes sense. What they're going to do is they're going to have the toll road. And that toll road is basically going to pay for itself, because the state will give the money, loan the money to the company that is going to be managing this. And the tolls are going to pay the state back. And then once that's paid back, they take up all the toll booths and it's a free road. Houston's toll road has never gone away. Why? Well, because once it was paid off, the state said, well, wait a minute, we got too much of a good thing here going. Let's keep this going. Everyone's used to it. Everyone's used to paying the tolls. Let's just keep it going. And that's what happens with gambling. Gambling will have it will not have the effect that everyone thinks it will have. And our state senators, they're more reasoned, in my opinion, on this issue. And is why I think Dan Patrick's right. It will not go very far. And so, Brian Slayton obviously is in favor of this. It really kind of goes to the heart of the issue, that conservatives can disagree on issues. Good conservatives can disagree on issues. I'm not going to crucify Brian Slayton for voting for this, but I am going to bring it up. Next time we get together, we'll talk about that and get his point of view. And he's a guy who listens, and I'll give him my point of view. And hopefully, if you're watching, you've got an idea, you've got a point of view, then send it to us. Send it to me. Email me at bob@bunkerbob.com. Let me know what you think about this issue. Tell me why I'm wrong, because I don't hold the excuse me. I don't hold the inside baseball scoop, I guess. Sorry. Boy, allergy season is upon us. But I don't corner the market on what is true and what is right. So I will just say that I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Now, there are other things that I wanted to get to today, and I wanted to talk about what's going on in budget night, primarily what's happening when it comes to school choice. And school choice is the big issue that it is a legislative priority for the Republican Party of Texas. And it is really going to be on the hot seat as we move forward. Will it pass is the big question. And I've got to tell you, I don't know. But this is one of Greg Abbott's top issues, or so he says. And with that kind of backing, and by the way, I'm very, 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 very sure that it is one of Greg Abbott's top priorities. And I have a good reason to know that. I've kind of an insider baseball understanding of Greg Abbott's position on this issue that I don't really think I can reveal on this show, but I'll talk about it on the next show. So this show I'll be doing Monday through Thursday from now on, and I hope that you'll come back. And unfortunately, my allergies are just getting to me, and I'm not going to be able to get through this whole issue if I continue to try to do the show. So we'll pick this up on Monday. We'll find out where everybody fell on budget night and what actually happened and where we are on that issue among many other issues. This is the night, by the way, that the state House has to kind of put in their budget numbers, the things that they want money for. This is the night, the kind of the deadline to get those things in. So we'll talk about that next time, and it is great to again be with you, and I hope to see you next Monday. Hope you have a great weekend, and don't forget, the Masters is on, and let's root for my beloved Aggie friend who's out there working hard for that championship. Y'all have a great weekend. We will see you next time. Blessings.